Welcome to another episode of the No More Wasted Days podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sarah.
And I'm Heather.
And today we're talking all about why quitting drinking feels so hard, but also why it's worth it. So you have to stick around in this one because first we're going to give some facts about why it does feel hard. Because if you're starting, maybe you just started on January 1st for dry January, maybe it's your New Year's resolution and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be, especially as we're getting closer to the end of January. And you might be thinking, why isn't it easing up yet? So we're going to go through some cool facts for you that'll just let you know this is how it's supposed to be right now. And then we're going to give you some awesome things to look forward to. So if you are stuck in the hard right now, you can go, okay, better days are coming. And then at the very end, we're going to give you a lot of strategies that you can use to make it feel easier, to make it feel a little simpler and not so much like, oh my gosh, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. We're going to make it start feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so much better than I thought it was going to be. Does that all sound good?
That sounds good. I want to take a second and just say, this is such a good topic, Sarah, because I was talking about this very thing last night to my one-on-one clients about, yes, we're at this milestone, if you will, and we need a plan B and a plan C to get to your goal. Like day 18 is great, and the third leg of the race is the hardest, they say. So if your goal is 30 days, I think this is really going to be helpful.
Yeah, because you really are in that final leg, aren't you? Because this episode will actually air on, I believe, January 22nd. I could be off one day or two. So if you're like, nope, you're wrong. But it's like you really are in that home stretch if you're doing your 30-day break. So I just want to tell you that I was super fortunate in the beginning. I was going to do a little story about myself when I first started, and I was going to ask Heather to share about hers as well. But in the beginning, I was super fortunate. I felt like my journey was pretty easy. But I think that is because I really was invested. I was like, okay, I'm doing this. At first I was hesitant. I was like, I don't know. I'm going to try this for 30 days. We'll see. And I started seeing wins quick. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. But then all of a sudden at 6 months for me is when I started having moments where I was starting to recognize a new emotion that I hadn't really felt because I had been numbing it with alcohol. And that emotion was anger. And I was angry because I was starting to realize that I will never be a person that can have just one drink. I will never be a person who can be out with friends, out to dinner, and order one glass of wine and then head home and keep it sensible. And that was making me so angry. It was a hard emotion for me to name. It was hard to understand why I was feeling it. And it was hard to come to terms with all of that. So maybe you're a little bit farther along and you are going, yes, I'm starting to feel that. Then you're not alone either. So that was kind of my story about when I was starting out, when I really hit my first stumbling block. How about you, Heather?
Oh, mine was hell. I
I
just
was
don't,
thinking, I was like, I know Heather's is different. So that's why this is so good.
I don't know how else to put it. So every day for the first 30 days felt like an uphill climb. The simple things felt difficult. And I was so frustrated about when am I going to not think about not drinking? And I don't remember the first 30 days well, right? I remember doing the things, like whatever I could. And then I do remember feeling ill and angry and frustrated that I was never going to be a quote, air quote, normal drinker.
Yeah.
And I think I always knew that, but it was just moving into acceptance. And by that point, I was less angry. But no, it was hell. I just don't know. I can't lie. It was awful.
But look at you now.
I know. It was 4 years.
So it is true that it's totally worth it, even if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, this is a crazy struggle. And Heather was participating in the 30-day challenge. So she was putting in the work. She was doing the things that you should do, which I think helped lay the groundwork for you.
Absolutely. And not my whole life was hell. It was just hard. Hard hell, you know?
Yeah. And it was really just that coming to terms with or being alcohol free.
Yeah.
It's it can be harder than one expects. And if that's happening to you, we don't want you to feel alone.
Right. And what's so cool about us is you were like ready to go, and I had to, and
Mhm.
it was still hell. So we have a lot to bring.
Yeah, a lot of different stories to bring. So if you're listening and you're relating to one of us, keep listening. According to research done by the American Addiction Centers, approximately one third of individuals treated for alcohol use disorder, or sometimes we'll call it AUD, maintain sobriety long term. And that may be feeling really overwhelming. And conversely, relapse rates for alcohol addiction are estimated between 40 to 60%. So those statistics make it go, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to do this? And I remember thinking, I'm not going to be one of those statistics. I'm going to keep going on this. Now, obviously, I can't determine what's going to happen in my future, right? I may end up drinking one day. I really hope I don't, but for today, I'm not drinking. And in the beginning, I really was like, for my first 30 days, I'm not drinking. No matter what I have to do, I'm going to get through those first 30 days. So if you're listening to those statistics, don't let them overwhelm you. Let them empower you. Alcohol is a powerful and addictive substance, and it can be really hard to break free. But with the information we're going to provide to you in today's episode, you're going to find that the journey is going to be a little bit easier, and you'll have the tools you need so you can be on the other side of that statistic that I just shared, and you can be the side that succeeds. Are those numbers overwhelming to you when you hear them? Or I think we know now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they are. I think about the change cycle theory that I learned in social work, where it takes 6 to 7 times to change something significant in your life.
Yes.
And that corresponds with those percentages for sure. I'm a social worker and a coach. I can't do math, but they are a little overwhelming, and it's really empowering too that, on some level to see like that 40 to 60% of people do relapse, and that you're not alone. Like, you're not a failure. We have stats to back it from, a reputable source.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing to think about is that means it was just a core group of people that they were able to ask. They
Hmm.
weren't able to ask every single person in America that's ever tried to quit drinking. So you
Right.
have to think about it that way too. So, first, we're going to dive into why quitting drinking feels so hard. And there are three reasons why it can feel so hard. The first one is that it's a biological challenge. Alcohol is affecting your brain. I was just talking about this to somebody. They were saying, I just feel kind of flat now that I've quit drinking. I feel good, but I just feel kind of meh. And I was explaining to that person that, alcohol affects our brain, our dopamine receptors. And because it's giving us these boosts of dopamines that are unnatural, that means that it's also crashing and it's becoming dependent on it. So that's one reason why maybe you're doing this and you're like, I was told I was going to feel excited, energetic, and instead I feel very flat. That's why. And it also just does so much to our brain. I have a whole episode on it called The Buzz. I cannot remember the episode number on that, but I will link that in this episode because there are a few episodes that are worth going back to that I'm going to mention. But as I'm talking about that, this one is so good. So there can also be physical symptoms in early sobriety that are part of withdrawal. Those can be fatigue. You can feel really tired. You can have insomnia. A lot of times people have a hard time with sleeping right at the beginning, or you could be learning how to manage your cravings. So, all of those things can be difficult and they're just a part of the process.
For sure. My thoughts on the physical are go to bed. If you can't sleep, we could do a whole episode on sleep hygiene, but it will level out, and we've got lots about cravings.
Oh, yeah. And lots of episodes about cravings too and managing those. The second thing it may be doing is causing an emotional struggle. And that's because you were using alcohol as a coping mechanism. I talk to people who say, oh, I didn't drink when I was angry. I didn't drink when I was sad. And then when they quit, they go, oh my God, I drank when I had all those emotions and I didn't realize it. And Heather was raising her hands for all
Hmm.
those things because I realized that I drank when I was stressed, mad, happy, sad. I
Indifferent.
drank for all the emotions,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
Indifferent.
all of them.
Just a regular day. Yeah.
Hmm.
I didn't need I didn't need a reason towards the end. But because of that, I didn't know how to manage my emotions. Did you know how to manage yours?
Nope.
Did you know how to name your emotions?
No. I knew the big ones, like
Yeah,
happy,
right?
sad, mad. But basically, like what my 4.5-year-old knows now. Truly.
Exactly, that's how I felt, and I thought I was so much more aware, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so unaware," and that's why it's a cool thing. So if you're going, "Oh my gosh, I'm having to manage all these emotions," please know that it's gonna get easier and that you're gonna get better and better at recognizing your emotions earlier. You're gonna feel them when they creep in, and you're gonna go, "Oh, this is the start of A, B, or C." And then you're gonna be going, "Okay, well, when I feel anger, here are the things that help me." Like, that's how good you're going to get at this the farther along you go. And then the other thing that can be really hard is that you start feeling like you've lost your identity and you don't know who you are without alcohol. This was huge for me. Was it huge for you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was a person who was really like when people say, "What are your hobbies?" I would say, "Oh, I like to drink in the sun." And I roll my eyes heavily when I say that now. Like, really? I have so many hobbies now that I can't even get to all of them. I have so many interests, and I am just so much more of a full person. So if you are feeling like, well, I'm losing everything, I don't even know who I am, that's going to be part of the process too. You're going to start figuring out who you are and what you like to do. It's a really cool adventure.
Yeah, it's so exciting. It really is.
Oh, yeah. And then the last thing you may be feeling is the social and cultural factors. There is major societal pressure around drinking. It is normalized in every single way. Heather will always say, "You drink at a baby shower, you drink at you drink at everything." And
Right.
just the fact that we drink at a baby shower, it's enough to tell us, like, oh, it's everywhere.
Right. We drink at funerals. I mean, think we drink all everywhere.
Mhm.
So it's super, super, that makes it even harder.
Yeah, if you're going out for a work meeting, people will say, "Oh, let's go out for dinner." And then everybody starts ordering drinks. And that can be a really nerve wracking situation. If you're in your just day to day life, you're going, "Oh my gosh, every day I would drink at 4 p.m. That's when I would start." That's where you had it. And there's just all these memes out there and posts on social media all about how alcohol is glamorized. There's been a ton. For some reason, my algorithm was really trying to see if I wanted this. Like at the very end of winter break, a whole bunch of states got a whole bunch of snow and school was canceled for their kids. And it was all these videos of moms going, "Well, my only choice is to start drinking now." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, that was me. That
Hmm.
would have been me." I would have seen a post like that 6 years ago and I would have been like, "Mm hmm." And I also would have used that to validate my drinking.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would have said, "No, if that random mom that I saw on Instagram is doing it, I can too." So
Hmm.
don't feel overwhelmed. Like if you're feeling like, "Oh my gosh, it's everywhere," it is. But don't worry, you're going to get better at tuning it out. You're also going to get better at streamlining your algorithm. The fact that I was seeing it in my algorithm, I was like, "What the hell? What is Instagram thinking?" I was like, "This is not my thing."
Right.
So, if you've ever felt any of these things or all of them, you're not alone, and it doesn't mean that you can't succeed. And we're going to give you some tools on how to fix it. But first, we're going to talk to you all about the turning point of why it's worth it. But before we dive into that, I want to remind you that the Daymakers is open for you. That is our online community where you can talk to Heather and I. Some people ask us, like, how can we work with you guys more closely? You can do that by joining the Daymakers. We do approximately 6 group coaching calls each month, depending on the month and how many weeks there are in it. And if you can't join them live, then you can listen to the recordings. We also have weekly focuses that help you dive deeper into those calls topics. We have a book club where we're always reading a new book each month that will help us on our journey. And it's just a group of really cool people at all different levels. So if that interests you, check out the link in our show notes. And then Heather also offers one on one coaching. And the new year is a perfect time to think about joining this. Can you tell
Yes.
us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So I meet folks where they are, no matter where they are on their journey, or say if alcohol is not your thing and it's marijuana,
Hmm.
and we can work on this very topic and how to make these goals stick. Boundaries, what am I avoiding and trying to uncover some of that, and then looking at tips and strategies that are personalized to help folks get to where they want to go.
Yeah, definitely check out the link in the show notes for either of those options if you're feeling like you need a little bit more support as you go through your journey. All right, let's dive into why it's worth it. What are the things you're going to start feeling as you go farther and farther on your journey, because it's not all going to be doom and gloom, I promise. If it was, as many people wouldn't say, like, quitting drinking was the best choice I've ever made, which is what you normally hear people say. So, number one is physical benefits. You are going to see improved sleep. You are going to see improved energy levels, and your overall health is going to be better. You're going to see things like clearer skin, you may be better at weight management and even reduced health risks as you move through. A lot of people talk about their blood pressure going down. For me, my cholesterol went down. My energy levels were the thing I noticed the most in the beginning. I'm already an energetic person by nature. Like I can fake it till I make it if I am tired. But when I first quit, I was like, oh my God, I might have too much energy, is what
Yeah.
I kept thinking. What were your physical benefits?
I have blue eyes and they got so much more blue. And like the whites of my eyes were brighter. My teeth
Mhm.
got brighter. The bloat distributed. I didn't lose a lot of weight in the beginning. My skin, I got a lot of acne and then it cleared up. And then
Mm,
after I got past the hell part, I had so much more energy.
yeah. So keep going. If you are feeling like Heather and you're like, this is hell, it does get better. The next area that you're going to see improvements are those emotional and mental benefits. So many people I talk to say their anxiety reduces when they quit drinking. So many. It's one of the questions I always ask our day makers when they're like, I'm 100 days or I'm 200 days. I'll say, what are the improvements you're feeling? And anxiety is number one. They're like, my anxiety's gone down. I know for Heather, this was a big one.
Oh, yeah. I haven't had a panic attack since I quit drinking.
What an awesome thing. And you're going to notice an improved mood. It's going to be easier to balance your mood. I know that can be hard. For me, I noticed I was more patient with my family, with my kids. I have more mental clarity. I can organize my to do lists. I can organize my day more easily. I'm not perfect at it. I mean, we're all different individuals, right? But I'm better at it. So just remember that those things are going to get better. And then emotional benefits, you're going to start recognizing the emotions like Heather and I were talking about. And you're going to learn how you need to comfort yourself through these different emotions.
That's really scary and was scary for me. And I really worked on that with my therapist and my coaches because that was more scary for me than.
Yeah, just learning how to be with your feelings. It can be a really overwhelming thing. And I feel like it's the one thing that I really help people through is, well, what is this? Like a lot of people don't know what the emotion is. And that's what I've started to notice. It's what I noticed about myself. So if you're overwhelmed with that, don't worry. It will get better. Keep listening to this podcast because we give a lot of tips and just keep plugging along and saying, what is this emotion? Okay, well, how am I feeling it in my body? What can I do to remedy it? Beyond that, you're actually going to start feeling stronger relationships and connections. And we actually just did an episode on this. Heather led episode 76, where she talked all about revitalizing relationships in your alcohol free journey. And there was so much good information in it. So I'm going to link that one in the show notes for sure. Because if you didn't listen to it, it is one that you really should go back and listen to because you're going to find out that there is so much joy in rediscovering authentic connections without alcohol. Has it been one of your like favorite things about being alcohol free or one of the top ones about being alcohol free?
It's definitely one of the top. It's probably one of the most interesting in
Yeah.
retrospect.
Uh-huh. Because I didn't expect it. I was definitely on the side where I was like, oh, no one's gonna like me anymore. I'm really just drinking party girl. So without alcohol, no one will like me. And then I found out, oh, it wasn't alcohol. People like me without it. And I can still have fun. So if you're waiting for that one, it's coming. And then the fourth one, this is my favorite. You're going to experience freedom and empowerment. If you are not already experiencing this feeling where you're like, oh my gosh, I feel free from something. That's how I kept feeling. I was like, it's like I'm free. I don't know what I'm free from, but I had more time. I had more money. I had more energy. I wasn't being burdened by thoughts of alcohol all the time. In the beginning, I was thinking about it a lot, but I was like in a different way. I would think about it and be like, oh, I don't do that anymore. I felt so free. This is why I say I'm alcohol free a lot of the time instead of saying I'm sober. It is because of that freedom I felt. Did
Yeah,
you feel it's one that's hard to explain, but did you feel it?
definitely. And I'm pausing because I'm thinking, I can't remember the specific moment that I felt that. And I do others that I work with or they're really good friends when they're like, I felt joy for the first time. And to me, joy is freedom.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, like that true, authentic joy.
Yeah. And you can sit at like your kid's birthday and be totally present instead of thinking, oh man, I really want to drink. I wish we could be done with this. So I wish they'd go to bed. I know it's their birthday and it's their day, but I wish they'd be done with it. Those were things that really bogged me down. And then you're going to feel empowered at some point on your journey. And I tell people, like, with all my push to 100 people, I'm like, we're not setting big goals until the end of this. Like, we're going to think about goals. We're going to think about the person we want to be, but we're not going to set anything major. But as you get more confident on your journey, you're suddenly going to go, okay, well, if I can do this, if I can quit drinking, I bet I can do other hard things. And then you can set bigger goals for yourself and actually start achieving them. Or maybe you're going to start trying new things and you have follow through. And you're going to start creating a life that's totally aligned with your values. And there is nothing cooler than it.
Yeah. And to be able to follow through once you get to that point and follow through with your commitment every day that you're going to be alcohol free, that
Yeah.
is so empowering in and of itself.
Yeah. It may feel like, oh, that's not too big of a deal. But man, when you've been drinking like I was for, I would say 40 years, but I didn't drink for, the first 18 of them at least, kind of. I'm like, I guess I drank a little in high school, but it is like, I wasn't drinking that whole time, but I drank for a good 20 years of my life and it became more and more and more. So for me to go one day without alcohol and to follow through with that, that was a huge deal. And then to do it again and again, it's amazing. So if you're in it, please keep going because it does just keep getting better and better. So let's talk all about strategies for success in the early days. If you're thinking, okay, I'm in that first category where I'm still in, this is really hard, and I want to get to that second category that they just started talking about. I want to get to all that good stuff that they were talking about. Here are some items you can work on. We're going to go through 4 different areas. The first one we've already talked about once during this episode is building a support system. So that includes doing something like the Daymakers or working with a one-on-one coach or joining something like AA or Smart Recovery, just joining other communities. They do not have to be about alcohol. They don't have to be revolving around quitting drinking, but start surrounding yourself with like-minded people. Has this been, I know this has been huge for you just
Yeah.
because you talked about working with a coach in the beginning,
Yeah.
being part of the community.
That was the difference. When
Yeah.
people say, like, what, compared to how much you used to drink, how long you drank, what made this time different in the support system? Because I had a therapist prior. Everything in my life was the same, air quotes. What was not was the like-minded support system.
Yeah. Finding people that are also interested in not drinking or finding people who are indifferent to alcohol. That can also be something. You can have friends that maybe they do drink, but it's not their main focus. I really don't have any friends who are like, oh man, I went out last night. I got so hammered. I don't have those people in my life anymore because those are not people that I find a lot of common ground with anymore. I was that person. So
Same.
it was hard when I left that area, but having that support system has been huge. You can find it by training your algorithm. You can be surrounded by people you don't even know, but they show up every single day for you on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. That can be a way to do it. Or you can do it by joining the Daymakers. You can do it by Googling, like going on Facebook and putting alcohol-free communities. You're going to find some and they're going to be free to join. So please find a community. If you don't do the Daymakers, do something. The second strategy for success in the early days is creating new rituals. This is my favorite. I love talking about this. And I feel like with all my push to 100 people, I've been like, okay, we're going to work on routines. It sounds like we need to really work on parenting ourselves and waking up at the same time every day and having a morning routine that sets you up for success. This is so important. Is it your like favorite thing?
It really is.
Yeah. And so you're going to start finding that with your daily routines, that there's just different areas in your life where being alcohol free is a little bit harder. And maybe that's in the evening. And then you might start going, okay, I really need to set up a new routine in that area. Or we might call it a ritual, right? And if you're needing to dive into this topic a little bit more, go to episode 74. where we did talk about creating new rituals and habits to support our alcohol free life. But otherwise, really think about your day, break it into three parts. You have your morning, you have your afternoon when you're transitioning from work back into being at home, and then you have your evening. And I want you to really start thinking about having a morning routine that is always the same. It does not have to be complex. It can be that you wake up, you write down three things you're grateful for, you sit in silence for 5 minutes, and then you go take your shower. It doesn't have to be this big kasha, okay? And then your afternoon routine can be you go on a walk with your dog while you listen to a podcast. You put away all the stuff from your lunchbox after that or whatever from your work bag. And then maybe you do like one or two chores around the house if you have the energy for it. Maybe you just sit down on the couch and you get out your journal and you write down a few things and then you have dinner. That can be an evening routine. And then that evening routine, that was actually your early evening routine. But then your evening nighttime routine, that's when skincare can happen, brushing your teeth, reading. Just start thinking, how can I make this the same every single day? And how can I start creating routines or rituals that support my alcohol free life?
Yeah, it's so important. And I just smiled when Sarah said evening routine. And I got excited. Like, I get excited for my evening routine. I'm revamping my morning routine because I think within these habits and rituals, we have to adjust them to where we are. It'd be pretty
Mm-hmm.
realistic. So if you're trying not to drink, number one is a huge life change. And if you've got that coupled with other life changes, you might want to readjust.
Yeah, exactly. Don't try to reinvent the wheel all on day one. But if you're feeling like, okay, I'm ready to dive into this, and I kind of laughed when you said I get excited for my evening routine because there's so many times where I say to my kids, "Come on, let's hurry, let's get done with doing the dishes," because I've been waiting to sit down on the couch all day long. I'm like, I've been dreaming of this moment like since my workday started. I do love my morning routine. So that one, it's like I can get out of bed pretty easy because I am like, oh, I'm so excited to like wake up, do my meditation, and feel all energized for the day. And then I always joke, like, well, it's the best part of my day. It goes downhill from there until I finally get to sit on the couch and start my evening routine of watching TV and then going into some skincare that I have been so successful at doing
Yes.
consistently for like 2 months. I'm like, who is this lady? It's finally happening.
That's awesome.
And the next area is focusing on your why. Your why is, why are you doing this? It really is that simple. Why are you choosing to be alcohol free? I want to encourage you to really clarify your why. Write it down each day. It may change every single day, and that is okay because maybe it's like, today I'm not going to drink because I have this function coming up and I want to make sure that I'm mentally clear for it. That can be part of your why. For me, it really is. I like myself better when I don't drink. It took me a long time to get to that being my why. Like it took me going, oh, my why is my kids. My why is my husband. My why is my health. My why is my productivity. It finally came down to I like myself better when I don't drink.
I like that.
What do you have a why?
Yeah, at first it was my daughter, and then it shifted to me because I'm worthy of this.
Yeah. It's really cool when the shift goes to yourself and it don't worry if it's not there yet. It will get there. Just keep going, but really do write a why down every single day. If you journal, start it with why am I alcohol free? Answer that question for yourself each day and just watch it evolve and change. And you can also get there by realizing at the end of the day things that you did in that day because you chose not to drink. Think to yourself, what happened today because I chose not to drink? What were some of the good stuff? And then you'll start seeing, like, oh, it was that I was more available for my kids. I was able to drive at whatever time. You start seeing these correlations and you go, oh, okay, I know why. I know my why now. I understand it more. Then the last area is I want you to practice patience and grace with yourself. You have to remember that progress isn't always linear and it's okay to struggle. When I got to that 6 month mark and I had been riding the pink cloud and I was feeling great, and then all of a sudden I was feeling awful, I was a little knocked down. I was a little like, oh no, is this what it's going to be like now? Did it feel really good at the beginning and now it's going to feel awful? And it doesn't. You will go through ups and downs. And it's a good thing to realize when you're in a down that it's going to go back up, that it's going to get there for you. Episode 4 is something I want you to also go back to and listen to, because Heather broke down the timeline of quitting drinking in your first year, things that you may experience, ups and downs. And it is a really cool way to go through and go, oh, yeah, I'm like your first 14 days, you may feel this. In the days 15 to 30, this may happen. So go listen to that if this episode has been really interesting. Do you have anything else to say about having patience and grace with yourself on the journey?
Yeah, I would say treat yourself like you're healing from a surgery, or treat yourself like you would your best friend, your child, your favorite human.
Yeah, that's huge advice, and that's hard. A lot of times, the voice in our head is telling us how stupid we are, how fat we are, how irritating our voice is, right? There's all
Hmm.
these things that our inner voice tells us. It takes a lot of work to start changing it. So, like Heather said, I love the act like you're recovering from a surgery, the same grace you would give yourself in that area. And it will get better. All of a sudden, you'll start getting better, and then it will become progressively better and better, faster and faster, the same way it would after a surgery. All right, that has gotten us through this whole episode. I know I packed it with a ton of information, but I want you to remember that there are going to be tremendous benefits and rewards in this journey. So if you're kind of stuck in the suck right now, it's going to get better. And if you haven't checked out the links in the show notes yet, go check them out and see if the Daymakers is a good fit for you, or one on one coaching if you're needing that support system in your life. And definitely, if you have not rated or reviewed the podcast yet, go do that. If you've been a long-time listener and you haven't done that yet, this is your time. Go hit the star button, leave a written review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. And we love hearing those things. We love reading them.
Yes, I'm going to do that after we finish today. I haven't read them in a while.
Yeah, I go back and read them just because they are so helpful. And I want you to remember, you're stronger than you think. And the life waiting for you on the other side of alcohol is worth every moment of effort.
Yes, that touched my soul. Thank you, Sarah. And thank y'all for listening to another episode of the No More Wasted Days podcast. And we'll be in your ear next week. Bye, y'all.